All right, everyone. What's going on? This is Artemis. Today is March 3rd, 2024. And boy, it has been a long few years for me. Um, Zen Summer and we are getting this, uh, light worker class together this year. And I think it's really, really important. Um, it is because there's always room for change in spirituality. It's really important to understand your growth, where you need to work on yourself, and then also, whatever it is you're doing. If it's light work, if it's meditation, if it's witchcraft, which I am into, or whatever it is, then I believe that we should all kind of work towards our goals and kind of hone in on those aspects of our lives. Here, I wanted to go over spiritual alchemy just a bit. And usually, my shows are usually more constructive when I have Zen Summer on or, anybody else that wants to talk to me. Wisdom app has changed. So that is, for me, that's something, but it won't stop me and Zen from, having shows. I believe we are scheduled sometime this month to get together on YouTube as well, which we haven't since October, I believe. But I'm just going to read a few things here. I have something that I wanted to announce. I just got a printed copy of my very first book I've ever published, Learn Witchcraft from a Different Perspective, on Amazon by myself, Artemis Lore. And it's actually a really great book. And I'm glad I put it together. But let's get back into the spiritual alchemy thing. So, what is spiritual alchemy? I've talked about this before on shows with Zen. Spiritual alchemy to me is a way of creating magic within yourself, a way of, being that change for yourself that maybe you've never done before, or maybe you have and you just didn't notice it, right? Just like with candle magic or anything else, you're trying to create magic. What about for yourself? How does one do that? So, the essence of alchemy is purification. The glimmering gold has to undergo several extensive steps to let go off its impurities. So when you think about alchemy, it's like turning lead into gold. You've ever heard of this thing, or if you guys study alchemy, there's a scientifical, or I want to say a chemical, type of practice in Hermeticism that was created years ago, many years ago. So you guys may want to look up hermetics, and you may want to look up alchemy as well. And but a spiritual alchemy is basically turning yourself into gold. Okay. So, in the same way, spiritual alchemy entails facing challenges to refine one's character. So, think about, you have this piece of metal and you're trying to break it down. You're trying to add other elements to it to create a golden cup, right? You may want to know a little bit of chemistry that might come into play as well. But when you're talking about yourself, you're basically facing challenges to refine one's character. And you're going to have to break these steps down. It's just like for me, when I'm making a potion, I have many different herbs, many different liquids, and I may mix them. I'm creating, let's say, I'll give you guys an example. I created a dream spell. I thought about the herbs that attributed to this particular liquid that I wanted to make as like a dream liquid, like a potion for the spell. And I had to look for, which liquids would work, what herbs would match, what type of, if I wanted it to smell a certain way, possibly lavender because that's good for sleep, having amethyst crystals, nearby. What type of technique? Am I just going to boil it? And am I going to, what kind of chemical process am I going to put this through? And then, of course, what type of intentions and magic am I going to put into the liquid? Right? There's like all of these steps. So in spiritual alchemy, when you're trying to refine your own character, you're basically going through different steps to become your authentic self. All right. So if you want to know if the lead can really be converted into gold, then you know that it is possible. In the modern day, the dreams of the ancient alchemists have come true. Lead converts to gold in a process called nuclear transmutation. While nuclear transmutation couldn't be achieved in the past, the experiments of alchemists were not all in vain. It is worthy to note that in the past, science and religion used to blur the lines. This means that many times alchemists use the same symbols that were found in science. Okay, so when you think about alchemy in that way, this is what I was trying to tell you guys. Science comes into play with religion. It comes together when you think about it, and it's been used for years. Okay, so let's look at the 7 stages of spiritual alchemy, which is number 1, calcination. So you're removing unwanted and unnecessary things from your life and burning them into ashes. Now, for me, this is this is a physical practice, but it's also mental and emotional as well. When you think about all the things that are just unnecessary in your life, like period, you just don't need them anymore. They don't serve you well. They don't serve a purpose. You can rid of those things. You can also write those things down on a piece of paper and burn it and blow the ashes outside in the wind, and don't look back because you're moving forward. So you're kind of like in the first stage of, okay, I'm starting to become the person that I want to become. I'm not dealing with this drama anymore. I'm not dealing with all of this unnecessary baggage anymore. And I'm going to go ahead and just do my shadow work, release, let go, and start to move on. Number 2, dissolution. So intense emotions that bring forth intense crying. So this is the part of the shadow work process where now you're feeling what you have to do in order to be happy, and it really hurts because you may not want to let go of a particular situation, a particular habit, a particular person, and you're feeling like I'm going to be, maybe I'm going to be alone, or just the fact that you have to go through this is such an emotional thing that it makes you cry, but you know it's good for you. You know it can help you. And a lot of people get stuck at this level. Remember, there's 7 levels. I've slid back on the levels. Trust me, all the time. But the dissolution can be very intense. It can also be stressful, and it can also be very depressing. Now, if you get to this level, you may have to go back to the calcination level and prepare yourself to release and let go of some things in your life and start the process again. But let's go to number 3, separation. Deeply thinking and understanding. So this is the part that I always talk about. It's not for everyone. I have my own beliefs. And I'll get to the TikTok thing in a minute, but I did mention something about, my own practices and beliefs compared to other people around the world. But I do want to say this. The separation part for me was going into solitude, which is very hard for a lot of people to do, being on my own and simply thinking about what it is that I want to do in my life and giving myself that me time, that alone time to really start mapping out and planning my future. Okay, so now let's go to number 4, conjunction. So a person that allows themselves to begin their desired path. Okay, so this is perfect, right? So you go through the separation part, you understand where you want to be, you take some time for self. You go through that crying moment because you got to deal through all, you deal with this yourself by yourself. Even if you have people around you, ultimately it's you yourself that you're changing, right? So the conjunction is like, okay, now I know what I want to do. Now I know who I want to be. So maybe, let's say you go through a heartbreaking relationship and you're trying to find yourself on track. You go through that shadow work, you cry, you're upset, you're angry, and then you're alone and you're just feeling like this is just, I got to think about other things that I could do to get my mind off of this, how to let go and free myself from this. And now you're coming up with ideas. And these ideas are things in your life or goals that you maybe push back because you were in that relationship. Maybe you create something, maybe you write, maybe you do art, maybe you want to sell something, you want to make some money, you want to do this, you want to do that. You start to write that down on a sheet of paper and you start to try to see which ones are the easiest tasks that you could try to complete, even if it's one per year. Okay. And that will make you happy when you achieve it. So you want to start looking towards your goals. You want to start to begin going down your desired path, even if it's spirituality, right? So with spirituality, there may be that whole like you have to leave your previous religion or your previous faith because you're going to go into something else. And you want to do this really great, amazing thing by living that path and seeing where that path can take you in life, right? And you feel like this is what the universe wants you to do, or this is your desire to do this. So let's go into number 5, fermentation. So the old begins to die and one starts to receive a glimpse of the new. So this is like now you're taking action on these goals, okay? And you are starting to see yourself fulfill this desired path. And so the old you, people may not recognize. People people may not recognize or empathize with the new you, and it doesn't even matter. It's like giving up smoking, right? You may want to stop smoking cigarettes and your friends are still smoking cigarettes, but you're dead set on I'm done, right? And I'm going to the gym now. I'm, eating healthier, stuff like that, right? So one starts to receive a glimpse of the new. So to be honest, once you decide that you're going to do something or go down a specific path, you have now transformed yourself into a new person, and your reality changes all around you, within yourself, and then all around you, because we reflect who we are out to the universe, and the universe is like a mirror portal reflecting back to us who we are. So if you're new, everything's going to be new. You're going to get surprises and new doors open for you, like right and left and center. And you're going to be like, oh my gosh, you wouldn't have been able to see all of this if you didn't decide to change during that separation process. All right. So now you got the distillation. So this is undergoing further purification after facing a series of hardships. So what happens when you start to experience new things, and you're basically ripping your old self away from your newer self because you've separated. There's many things that could happen. Okay, because maybe your finances now have changed due to your lifestyle. Maybe your relationships have changed due to the new you. It's like going in for surgery and coming back a whole new person. There may be some new challenges that come along with that, right? And this is what you risk. I mean, not to say you risk it, but you do for your own happiness, right? So you may have to face a set of hardships, because what happens when you tell the universe, I want this new life? Well, the universe may put you through a series of challenges that you may have to go through in order to learn from the past and become this new you. It's like if you think about people who open up a new business. They open up a new business. It's like, it's easy peasy. I'm just going to make a whole bunch of money and, everything is all good. But there's like a new way of thinking. What they thought was so easy, They're starting to understand that they may have to change their patterns, their lifestyles, their thinking patterns, being more goal oriented. Even like, maybe friends and family understanding that they're going through this tremendous change so that they can become successful. But at the same time, it hurts because they're not used to doing things like this, and it could be very strenuous. And then also the responsibilities that it takes to have a business, right? So you may go through all types of hardships, financial hardships. You may be investing in yourself. You may have been taking a few losses. This is how, people with big businesses, they'll tell you it wasn't an easy road. And that's the same in spirituality. Spirituality for a lot of people is not an easy road to take. It doesn't matter if you are left hand path, right hand path, dark light, in between, up, down, it don't matter. A witch, a guru, whoever you are, whatever you do, it may not be such an easy road to take because we're living in a world where everything is already structured for us. You're trying to find the way that is more free for you to become who you are within this structured environment. Okay. So, just really think about that, especially like for people like me. I always say this. I live in Los Angeles. This is a huge city. California is a really big state, and there's a lot of rules, laws, congestion, a lot of people. And usually I have to take myself outside of the city to raise my vibrations in a more natural environment. And it can be a little strenuous because, of course, I have to, gather my stuff together, make sure I have, enough of what I need to get to where I need to get to, which could be 2-3 hours away in the woods somewhere, just to take a moment to breathe. And by the time I get there, I might be a little emotional because I had to go through all of this just to find my peace. Now, finding peace doesn't mean you have to go leave your home for 2 or 3 hours, 2-3 hours away somewhere in the woods. You could find peace within yourself, in your own comfortable environment. But for me, I take it a next step further because I want to, be out in the open away from the same environment that that I'm continuously in. It's just like people who have not traveled outside of the US, who most of us who don't travel, we don't know how beautiful it is outside of the US. We've never seen it, right? There are a lot of people who live in the US that have never traveled outside of the US. And by the time they get somewhere like Italy or Paris or the Caribbeans, they may be a little emotional because they just didn't know how beautiful it was. And they may have to, start understanding the cultures there. And maybe the people are nicer, or maybe, everything is just more beautiful. And they have a little emotional moment because they're like, I don't experience this at home, right? Now, let's get to the last stage, which is coagulation. So it is time to become whole again. So now with this new person that you are, now you have a whole new you, and it's almost like a rebirth. Okay. It's almost like a rebirth. So it's a whole new you, and it's time for you to, really be this whole new person and really take it on and really adhere to it and live it in your everyday life. So you've gone through all of these steps to become a whole new person, and now this is the new you, right? So you burned away unnecessary stuff. You went through the intense emotions. You separated yourself. You started thinking about what path you wanted to go down. You started to get a glimpse of, how much does it take for me to go down this new path? You may go through some hardships and some more emotional stuff. And then all of a sudden, maybe a couple years later down the line, you're a whole new person. You think about things differently. Setting goals is much more easier for you, and stuff like that. So the reason I want to say that is because I'm going to come back to the topic of this book. Now, the first time I recorded a show about this book, I got really emotional, okay, because of some things that I went through in my life and how I got into witchcraft. So, there is a show here on Spotify. You'll see how I became a witch, or, whatever it's called. It's one of the first ones. And I went through a lot. For those of you guys that have been following me for a few years, you know that my old Spotify is gone. That there's a few podcast platforms where I deleted stuff because I went through the 7 stages of spiritual alchemy over and over and over again. And it's a learning process, right? At any point, you could start with number 1, calcination, and end up in, number 7, coagulation at any time. Why? Because we're learning and we're growing. We're learning and we're growing. We're learning and we're growing. And a lot of times we get caught up into, our own one-track mind of how things are. So I'll put myself out on the line. One of my TikTok videos, I said, look, I know that, people are wondering why I delete videos. Okay. I'm a big deleter. I do delete stuff. Okay. Off of my phone, my computer, and everything. I have a habit of doing that. I like to clear out, cleanse out. And, I mentioned on there that I don't like to press my beliefs onto other people because I know other people, we are all different and we all believe in different things. And, I had to let them know kind of like apologize for deleting stuff. I wanted to be authentic in that because I have gone through so much. But the things that I have gone through, I'm grateful for because it led me to now, I just got my first book in the mail. I've made 4 books now, and I'm just in shock at how far I've grown from going through this whole spiritual alchemy process in my life. I'm just like, wow. And sometimes I sit back and I get emotional because I can't even believe I'm here, right? So the first step with the spiritual alchemy is having gratitude. Okay, so having gratitude. So having a positive mindset begins with being grateful for what we already have. All right. So that's one thing during my practice I had to learn how to be happy. My friends in summer taught me a lot about finding gratitude. And being thankful goes a long way. And I literally pray to my ancestors, my watchers, my spirit guides, my gods and my goddesses, whoever, and thank them for helping me out. And also being thankful to myself for taking these steps, being grateful for my life, just stuff like that. And then also having faith. So having faith that's not a word that a lot of people like because it can make you anxious. It can draw in fear or anger that, you're going through these hurdles and practicing spiritual alchemy and trying to go through this change. But believe it or not, having faith through the darkest places will let you see the light at the end of the tunnel. Okay. So this is like you trust in this process. Okay. You just trust in the process, period. You trust in the process. You don't give up. You know it's going to happen. Happiness is coming. But that's easier said than done. But listening to it on a podcast like this might be helpful for you, even if it doesn't seem so right away. So also practicing self-forgiveness. Okay. So if you want to attract abundance in your life, you will need to practice self-forgiveness. So forgiving yourself is very important. And also self-acceptance and raising oneself to a higher state of consciousness. All right. So, forgive yourself for any type of shortcomings you believe that you've had in your life. So what? We all make mistakes. We're not all 100% perfect. And, this is something that I talked about on my shadow work video, which is actually on my website, artemisoraclecards.com. If you guys find that light worker class, there is a shadow work video. There's also a podcast that I did here, which actually was just me speaking in my office about it, and I just took the recording and uploaded it because I believe that that's one of the first or most important steps, like I told Zen Summer in the previous podcast before this one, to go through that shadow work. So part of the shadow work is forgive yourself. Forgive yourself if you feel like you're not where you're supposed to be in life, or you feel like you should have done this, a long time ago, and you didn't get it done, or you feel like you could have been here by now in your life, or you could have been there. Hey, hey, I'm in, I'm in college at 42 years old. I forgave myself for that long time ago. You know why? Because I decided, well, I'm just going to go back. I'm just going to go back and finish, and I forgave myself for not finishing earlier. And I thought about all the situations of who I could have been and where I could have been if I would have finished in a timely manner when I was in my 20s. But I could tell you, I appreciate the experience probably 90% more than I would have at that time in my life. And then getting rid of mental blocks. All right. So that would be self-doubt, indecisiveness, comparison, and tunnel vision. Spiritual alchemy is about opening up yourself to welcome the abundance in life. Mental blocks can prevent the entry of good energies. All right. So the mental blocks, I believe, now I know that's pretty hardcore. It's easy to say. But mental blocks are, I want to say, they are a response to our everyday lives and our environment and where we are in life. A lot of people have self-doubt because they, may not believe that they can be successful or be in this happy place in their life. And I think it's a natural human flaw that we have. And then also indecisiveness. I go through this all the time. Sometimes I'll feel like this is, one thing that I want to do, and then, I might change my mind. And, sometimes my friends get confused because they're like, what are you doing? And I'm like, well, I'm doing this. Then they come back the next week. No, I decided I'm going to do this. It's hard for them to catch up with me, but I need to catch up with myself, right? So at some point, I need to make decisions that I am sure of and fully aware of, and that I know for sure, this is what I'm going to do. And then go ahead and do that one thing, whatever it is. Comparison. I've had this happen to me. Yes, I have, where I feel like this is where I should have been years ago. I'm looking at another spiritual sister online that's doing her thing, and I'm like, oh man, I should be there. Why? I should be right here where I am, because this is a part of my process of becoming who I am. I can't compare that to anybody else. So that's a reality. And I'm openly admitting that that's a reality, and I'm self-checking that. Let's talk about tunnel vision. Well, tunnel vision is not always a good thing. They tell you keep your eyes straight forward, and chase after the prize, or whatever. But tunnel vision can actually block you from seeing new opportunities. So, some people like to live this, it's one way, straightforward and ahead. Don't look to the right, don't look to the left. They tell you that when you run in track and field, right? But at the same time, when you're going through this process, you may want to take a look around and, see other things and see other practices from a different perspective, from other people, and, kind of take that in a little bit and make your life your own path. And it's okay to do. I think that, hearing other people's experiences or seeing things from a different light can definitely help one grow, because I feel like we never stop learning in life. So visualize a good life. Now that's one that I've had to do, whether it was in a dream, where my subconscious started to come into play and I could see myself at a certain level in my life, or if it's just a visualization, simply like that. So when you have a visualization, you see yourself in your mind where you are going to be, not necessarily where you want to be. It is where you want to be, But if you say it if you say it like where you're going to be, you're literally placing yourself in a different timeline once you visualize it. So you visualize it, you've already put it out there in the universe, it's going to happen. This is where I'm going to be so many years from now. This is what this is who I'm going to be, and it's going to be great. I'm going to be at, whatever it is. If it's marriage, whatever it is, happiness, money, whatever it is, visualize yourself being that person who is successful or whatever it is, and it's going to actually happen. You are now placing yourself in a whole different dimension and timeline. So now you've totally changed your timeline to the person you are going to be. And that's actually really, really good. So, I mean, those are just some of the things. I'm not going to go through too much longer, but those are some of the things to think about when you're thinking about spiritual alchemy. And I can say that I actually feel like this now, now that I have, completed some books and stuff like that. Because, you know, I, I'm just, I got this book here and I'm just like, wow, I can't stop reading it. It's my own work. I am in total shock and awe because at the time I saw myself becoming an author. I saw myself, teaching classes. I saw myself doing witchcraft and teaching spirituality. I saw myself do this. And this is where I am now. I'm right where I need to be. And by me saying I'm right where I need to be, and, I have more goals. I'm not at the finish line yet because I have a lot more things that I want to do in my life. And I have already started to visualize where I'm going to be in the next few years of my life. I want to take myself and put myself in a whole different timeline. Okay, so if you just imagine, I'm trying to think about, one of these futuristic movies, where you got to kind of hop on that space timeline and you're traveling, through different dimensions and stuff like that. If you see different lines of time and it's running through at the speed of light, you got to catch on to one so you could get a ride up, if that makes sense to you guys. So, you know, I'm just talking here. This is kind of like my diary. Um, so, I hope that the last few podcasts, being a light worker and going into that is going to help you guys. I hope that you really chime into this class that's coming out, because we're going to be doing some things that we never thought we could do, but I know for sure that this was meant for us to do in this manner. Not necessarily in the manner of other people and what everybody else does, but coming from our perspective, might actually, help someone even more, just more authentically, not just talking off the side of our necks, but through experiences that we have had in life. So Zen Summer and I are working on this, and I do plan to be on YouTube with her, so we'll have another appearance. But for now, I hope you guys have a really good day, a really good week. And if you're not having a good week, look up spiritual alchemy, and maybe those different steps can actually help you get through this year a little better. And if not at all, hey, maybe you just appreciate listening to this quick show. All right, this is Artemis Lore. You can find me at artemisoraclecards.com. Thank you, everybody, and you have a blessed week. Bye.